Hey everybody, this is Gabriel, and I got a special treat for you guys today. This is a long time coming. I wanted to post this on video the day I did it, but we had some complications with the video. I was able to fix it now. I think, anyway. This is, as some of you all know, I have a small business. I got to set up at a sci-fi convention in Withville, Virginia. I set up last year as well as in 2022, and 2022 was my first year setting up, but I was also a speaker at WyvaCon 2022. That's the name of the sci-fi convention, is WyvaCon. And I gave a presentation on the Mothman. As some of you may know, Mothman is a West Virginia cryptid sighted during the 60s. So what you are going to see is that presentation. Audio quality might not be very good, so keep that in mind. I've done the best I can to fix it. But anyway, sit back and enjoy my 2022 presentation on the Mothman. I am here sharing that with you also. Um, I am a vendor here as well. I have a woodworking business set up next door. And it's a lot of fun to do the laser cutting and this stuff. Disappeared, huh? So, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Point Pleasant, West Virginia is where most of your Mothman sightings are going to take place. There are other spots in West Virginia that they take place as well, but Point Pleasant is where most of them took place. Home of history. Some of you may know about the Battle of Point Pleasant back in the 1700s, some of you may not. We'll get to that in a second. Mystery. Mothman, of course, because nobody really knows what Mothman is, and there's a lot of theories as to what Mothman is. And the Kanawha and Ohio rivers connect in Point Pleasant, and there's a picture right there of Point Pleasant and possibly Galapagos, Ohio. Okay, the Battle of Point Pleasant and Cornstalk's Curse. Has anybody in here ever heard of Chief Cornstalk?
He's my sixth great grandfather.
Oh, okay, cool. So, during the Battle of Point Pleasant that takes place in the 1770s, the Shawnee and the Mingo tribes, Indians, they're battling some settlers to defend their homes. Now later on, I don't know a whole lot about the battle, so I'm going to explain about Chief Cornstalk. Chief Cornstalk and the settlers agreed to a peace treaty. And then years later, 3 years later to be exact, Chief Cornstalk returns to Fort Randolph, which is in the McClintock Wildlife Management Area in Point Pleasant, where him and his son both were taken captive and murdered. Now it also says that when Cornstalk was killed, that before he died, that he cursed Point Pleasant for 200 years. And that's theory number one, is Mothman part of Cornstalk's curse? Some people do believe that. Okay, this takes place on November 2nd, 1966 in Parkersburg, West Virginia on Highway 77. Woody Derenberger is driving home at night and he sees a cigar-shaped UFO land in the road in front of him. Now, that man there, Andrew Cole, who he identifies as himself as Andrew Cole, exits the craft and says, I bleed just like you do. You can speak telepathically or you can speak verbally. So I'm sure they're having a great conversation. I'm just an alien. I'm going to tell people I'm going to tell him about my planet, what it's like. And then after their conversation, Cole says, thank you for your time. I will be back. And he does come back. And theory, actually we're going to do two theories here. I didn't put one up here. There were a lot of UFO sightings in the 60s. So one theory is Mothman an alien, or if you believe that the UFOs are government experiments, then is Mothman also a government experiment? This is what is probably the first Mothman sighting. This did not take place in Point Pleasant. This takes place in Clendenin, West Virginia, in a cemetery. And it was late in the evening. 4 or 5 grave diggers were out there, digging a grave, and they see a wing-shaped man fly above their heads. They later report it to the police and the news media and such. Merle Partridge and the Strange Red Lights. Now this takes place the day before the first Mothman sighting in Point Pleasant. November 14th, 1966, it's late in the evening. Merle Partridge is watching TV with his family, and the dog's out there barking at something in the yard, and the TV starts to get so loud, it's squealing. Merle Partridge compares the squealing to like a high-pitched military generator. Next thing you know, the TV got so loud, it just explodes right there. So Merle's going out on the porch to see what the dog's barking at, and as soon as he gets on the porch, the dog runs out through the field towards an old pump house, and he's hollering for the dog to come back, and next thing you know, he sees red lights rotating in his yard. Now, a theory on that, it could have been a UFO looking for a place to land, for all I know anyway. Then after the lights disappeared, Merle goes back in the house. His wife's cleaning up the glass from where the TV exploded. They just go to bed afterwards. And yes, Merle does think, well, what did I see? Because if you see something weird, you're gonna wonder, what in the world did I just see? Come on, Merle. There we go. All right, now we're in the first Mothman sighting in Point Pleasant, the Scarberry Mallet encounter. And this is one of the newspapers here that was written about it. Couples see man-sized bird, creature, something. And there's another newspaper right there in the middle there. That's right here. That's Steve Mallet, I believe, and his wife, Mary. And right there is Roger Scarberry and his wife, Linda. Now the story goes, as they were driving through the TNT area, which we'll get to in a minute, they were driving through the TNT area, and they come up to the North Power Plant, and that's when they see this thing. And of course, they're wondering what they're seeing. And as soon as they pull up on it, it runs towards the North Power Plant. And they're thinking, we should probably tell somebody about this. So they leave the TNT area and get on a small road, and they see it again chasing them on that road, and it's keeping up with the car, and it gets over top of the car, and Mothman says telepathically, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. No, not really. He gets over top of the car, and they can hear the wings hitting the bottom of the car. And one thing is, the wings were not going like a little bird, they were rotating in big circles. And once they reach Point Pleasant, they see a dead dog in the road. Now some people believe that is Merle Partridge's dog, Bandit, that went off to the pump house. Well, they reach the Point Pleasant, they tell the sheriff what they saw, they go back to the TNT area, they don't find anything. There's no evidence of what they saw in the TNT area. So. Oh yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention. When they're driving, when Mothman's chasing them, they're going about 90 to 100 miles an hour in their car trying to get away from them. The TNT area Now, back in World War II, from 1942 to 1945, the government was using it as a munitions plant for the war effort. And then in 1945, after they closed it down, it became a dumping ground for chemicals, which brings us to this theory. Is Mothman a mutation? Today, it is now a wildlife area, as they call it, the McClintock Wildlife Management Area. Some of the buildings still stand from the TNT area, and people go in there, they'll hunt, they'll look at the old buildings and stuff. And I've been there. It's kind of creepy. It's fun, but it's creepy. Come on, there we go. Now, after the first Mothman sighting in Point Pleasant, everybody was going around, well, there's a monster in the TNT area. So everybody grabs their gun, miles and miles and miles of cars entering the TNT area. And it got so bad that the National Guard had to step in and control traffic, because traffic was just getting so bad, people trying to hunt down this creature. I don't know, trying to kill it, trying to see it. Who knows what they could have been doing. Why is this thing not? There we go. Marcella Bennett. Now, this was the day after the Linda Scarberry, Roger, and the Mallets saw Mothman. Now, this story goes, Marcella Bennett and her brother and her sister-in-law, they go visit family in the TNT area, because there's a couple houses in the TNT area as well. Now, what they do is when they're leaving, they see a UFO in the sky, and her brother is trying to say, Marcella, look up, there's this light in the sky. Marcella's like, no, don't want to. So her brother, Raymond, that's his name, Raymond Walmsley, Raymond Walmsley. He says, no, you gotta see this. This ain't a plane. Marcella keeps walking, and as she gets to the car, that's when she sees the Mothman. So she runs back towards the house and falls over top of her 3-year-old daughter, Tina, and I would guess Mothman was walking towards her or whatever, and her brother's like, come on, Marcella, you gotta get up and run back to the house. Well, she ends up getting up, going back to the house, and Mothman gets up on the porch and is trying to get in the door. Now that'd be pretty terrifying if you had an unknown creature coming up at your door saying, hello, hello, let me in, I gotta come in, you know? What else we got? There we go. Okay, so this one, I don't have a date for this one. We're just going to say it was a few days later. Bob Bosworth and Al Coates, they're riding on a motorcycle through the TNT area. And the moon during that night was so bright, they decided to turn the headlight off on their motorcycle. So they drive by the North Power Plant, and Al says, look at that on the top of the roof. And they see what looks like red eyes. Now that's something y'all gotta remember too, is the red eyes. That's the biggest detail about Mothman, is the red eyes. So they get off the motorcycle, they're trying to figure out what it is, and they even try picking the motorcycle up using the headlight to see what this thing is. No, I probably wouldn't do that, but so they can't lift the motorcycle because it's too heavy. So they decide to enter the North Power Plant, and that's the North Power Plant right there. It's torn down now, but so they enter the TNT area, and I'm assuming they're standing by the windows where the moon is, shining through them, giving them some light. Well, Mothman's standing there in the dark, and they like everybody else, they see something weird. They don't see the red eyes at the time. And Bob says, well, that could have been because it wasn't in the moonlight that the eyes were not reflecting. And next thing you know, they're cracking jokes like, Al, you know what that is? That's that big bird. I'm going to shoot it. And he doesn't really have a gun, but he's pretending he has a gun. He's going to try and shoot it. The creature just stands there and does absolutely nothing. Bob's like, I mean it. I'm going to shoot it. They're still waiting for somebody to come out from what could have been a costume or something and say, "Don't shoot at me, please." Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The creature is still quiet. Well, they hear their footsteps in the glass, the Mothman's footsteps. So it turns and walks on the catwalks in the TNT area, and then as it's leaving, they hear wings. Like Mothman's just flying off in the building. Faye Duet and her siblings, they went venturing out in the TNT area. Her brother looks out her window, and he has this weird look on his face. Faye's like, "What are you looking at?" And her brother's like, "Don't look, but there's something right there beside your window." Well, she turns and looks anyway, and there it is. And this time in the night, it's pitch black. They don't see nothing. So, and Mothman's keeping up with their car too, but it was so dark that they couldn't tell if it was running or if it was flying. So Mothman's chasing them through the TNT area, and they come up at this turn, and they're thinking, well, maybe if we turn here, we'll lose it, and it'll just keep going straight. So they make that turn, and Mothman is still beside their car. They do not lose him. And so they stop at one of the factory buildings when Mothman jumps on the hood of their car and is staring at them. He's watching both of them. And of course the younger siblings are in the back, they're crying, they're scared. So after Mothman gets off the car, he jumps, and Faye says he jumped. And I'm saying he because it's Mothman, and I'm being he, but anyway. Mothman jumps on the top of the building, and her brother gets out and starts throwing coal at it, trying to get it to leave. That's a dumb idea. So he throws a little bit bigger chunk of coal at Mothman, and it lands about maybe 4 inches from its foot. And Mothman's like, "Okay, this is it." And Faye's like, "Oh, you've done it now. He's going to come for us." Well, her brother gets back in the car and says, "Lock the doors." And then as Mothman gets up, his wings spread out, and he just flies off. His wings do not flap at all. And that's something else that's weird. Mothman very rarely flaps his wings. Okay, so right here on the left is Mary Hyre. In the middle is John Keel, and some of you that may have read the Mothman prophecies may know who John Keel is. And right there on the right is the Men in Black. Now some of you may know about the Men in Black. I'm sure some of you may know about the UFO Whitfield sightings. I'm sure there's been some Men in Black encounters here in Whitfield. John Keel. John Keel visits Point Pleasant when the Mothman sightings start. He was an author from New York, and he does talk to the witnesses. He ventures out to the TNT area with a couple of them. And one thing that would happen to him after he shows up in Point Pleasant, his phone would start acting up. Now, of course, back then we didn't have cell phones. I wasn't alive in the 60s. There was no cell phones back in the 60s. So, yeah, his phone would act up. Some strange, he had some strange stuff going on with him. And Mary Hyre did as well, which we'll get to in a minute. And as I mentioned, he is the author of the Mothman Prophecies, the book. Now, Mary Hyre was a writer for the Athens Messenger in Point Pleasant. Yeah, she did talk to the witnesses and stuff. She would interview them, talk to them, because she was also real interested in this. And she would work with John Keel. She is also a Men in Black witness. Now, what happened was a character a little similar to Indrid Cold walks up in front of her, and I believe he's asking directions to Welch, West Virginia, and talking to her saying, why are you talking about this paranormal stuff? You really shouldn't be talking about this, starting trouble. And, he'll pick up objects and stuff. He doesn't even act like, he doesn't know what they are. He acts like he doesn't know what they are. So, that's another theory too. What are the men in black? Are they aliens? Are they people from other dimensions? No one really knows. So, when that man in black leaves, he's backing away, hysterically laughing. Probably not like the Joker, but I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. Oh, and Mary Hyre, years later died of an illness in a hospital. So, and a theory you can think of is, did she get the illness from the Men in Black or Mothman, or where and how did she get sick? That's one thing. Come on, there we go. The Men in Black. Now they would start showing up when the Mothman sightings started. They would wear black fedora hats, black suits, sometimes sunglasses, and they would drive in black sedans. And there's several different stories. Like I mentioned, they visited Mary Hyre. They did visit Merle Partridge after he saw the strange lights in his yard. The story with that is there's a man that comes up on his porch, and his wife answers the door, and the guy goes, I want you to stand out here and tell me where this thing was at. And his wife's trying to run him off, get out of here. And I'm quoting a line from a documentary I watched. I'm not going to stand out here like some dumb hillbilly and point to an empty field. Just get out of here. And they said that was a very spooky experience. Another one is there was a lady that went to go check the mail, and a black sedan pulled up and tried to pull her into the car. Now that's something scary right there. Getting kidnapped by unknown people. And they actually ripped the sleeve off her blouse, I think is what she was wearing. And yeah, they did visit Mary Hyre at the courthouse. I already talked about that. Come on, man. Sorry, this clicker is giving me a hard time. This one's very short. Thomas Urey, who is a Point Pleasant resident, I believe this was early in the morning. He was probably driving to work. Sees what he first thinks is a helicopter coming down on his car. And once it gets closer, he realizes it's not a helicopter at all, but it's a really big bird. It had huge wings, and it was doing circles around his car. And then after it got close, that's when it flew off into the woods. And who knows, Mothman could have been nesting over there or whatever. And Tom Urey probably wondering or curious what he saw, just like everybody else. Don't stare at Mothman's eyes. Now, this is not only a sighting, it's also a warning. You don't want to look at those red eyes. Connie Carpenter was driving home from church. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Most of your Mothman sightings take place in the nighttime. This one did not. This one took place in broad daylight. She's driving home from church when she sees Mothman beside a deserted golf course. And once she stops, Mothman comes at the car like he's going to attack her. And that's another theory, is Mothman sensitive to sunlight, like the gremlins, they're sensitive to water, it makes them go crazy. And she was fixed on those eyes. She said once those eyes were on me, I couldn't get my eyes off of his eyes. She later gets conjunctivitis in her eyes. Watery, itchy, red eyes. And another thing to mention, she is also the niece of Mary Hyre, who was, like I said, Athens messenger. The final sighting we're going to talk about is Nighttime Terror. Now this was a Christian man that saw this. it's the middle of the night, and for some reason he just wakes up, and Mothman's standing there beside the bed, or something that looks similar to Mothman. And like I said, he is a Christian. He thought it was a form of the devil, pretty much, or a demon. And that's another theory, is Mothman a demon? Once he sees Mothman, he starts freezing up in his bed. He can't talk, he can't move, he can't do nothing. So he starts quoting Bible verses in his head, trying to get it to go away or whatever. And if you interview him today, he'll get the same feelings today as when he did when he saw this thing. And there's a documentary where they're talking to him, and he says, while he's talking about the sighting, he's like, I can still feel those chills today. Like, okay, I believe this is the last sighting I'm going to talk about. Okay, yeah, because now we're going to talk about the Silver Bridge. Now, some of you may know about this, some of you may not. The bridge was constructed in 1928, and on December 15th, 1967, the I-bar, because this was a suspension bridge, the I-bar broke. The bridge fell around 5 o'clock in the evening. There were 37 cars on the bridge that night. Once the bridge falls, it's over. 48 dead, 2 bodies never found. What else was I gonna say? It probably took them a little while to get the bridge and the cars and the bodies out of the water, because the bridge was over the river too. So, and it has been said that some people have seen Mothman around the bridge. Maybe he was responsible for the bridge to fall, or maybe he was there to say, hey, the bridge is about to fall, you got to get off. It's also reported that the men in black, or some strange people were on the bridge that night as well, and they could have been responsible for the bridge to fall. And another thing is, after the bridge fell, the Mothman sighting stopped. And you gotta think too, from November 1966 to December 1967, there were over 100 Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, St. Albans, sometimes Charleston. Also, another thing, no one wanted to hear about Mothman after the bridge fell. Their main concerns were on the bridge. We don't care about that silly stuff. This bridge just fell. We lost a lot of people in this small community. We're paying our respects and stuff. We don't care about that stupid Mothman stuff and the UFOs and the men in black. What's the next slide? Oh, yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about these for a few minutes. These are the books that I used, and I actually have them right here. This one written by Donnie Sargent Jr. and Jeff Walmsley. This one has a lot of newspaper articles as well as an interview with Linda Starberry. If you haven't read it, highly recommend it. And this is Jeff Walmsley's. This one was just Jeff Walmsley. Mothman Behind the Red Eyes. Now this one has a lot of interviews in here. Bob Bosworth, Tom Urey, Marcella Bennett, Faye DeWitt, Lawrence Gray, the Christian man that I was talking about. I forgot to say his name. He interviews him. This book I could not put down. This was such a fascinating read. So if you want to learn, if you want to dig real deep into Mothman, this is the book to read right here. I did use a couple documentaries as well, because the internet and YouTube are not always correct. I'm sure everybody knows that, but it's good to hear it from the people that actually saw it and people that are in the community and stuff. Small Town Monsters, Mothman of Point Pleasant. is available on Prime Video as well as Tubi, and it is available on DVD. Great movie, great documentary. If you haven't watched it, please do. Eyes of the Mothman is a little more descriptive. Well, they're both descriptive. Eyes of the Mothman's a little longer, but still just as good. They actually really get into the Battle of Point Pleasant if you're into battle stuff and whatnot. Some other stuff you can look into is John Keel's The Mothman Prophecies, Gray Barker's The Silver Bridge. There's some other documentaries on Mothman, like the Mothman Legacy from Small Town Monsters, that talk about the later sightings after Point Pleasant. There is the movie with Richard Gere, which is on my shirt, actually. Some of you may have seen Mothman Prophecy, some of you may have not. If not, please watch it. It's really good. They do have a festival once a year in Point Pleasant, the Mothman Festival, which is actually today, too. They get a lot of people there at the Mothman Festival. Lots of vendors, lots of people. One of these years I'd love to go. I've never been myself, but there is a museum, a Mothman museum on Main Street in Point Pleasant. Now the museum I have been to. My phone just went off. The Mothman Museum's got newspaper articles, reports, drawings, props from the Mothman Prophecies, if you like that movie. They have a piece from the Silver Bridge, which that's pretty cool. They got a bunch of cool stuff in there. When they dedicated the Mothman statue, which, let's go back a couple slides, because I have a picture of the Mothman statue. And if I can get this thing to cooperate. Okay, no, that's cheap. Right there. That's the statue right there. Very awesome statue. And there is a webcam on YouTube. If you don't want to see the statue in person, you can see it on YouTube. The Mothman Museum has a 24/7 live webcam, so you can see the statue. I will be taking questions. Some of them I may not be able to answer, but I will try my best. So let's go back to the next slide. Come on, man. There we go. This thing's aggravating. Okay. Questions, anybody? Yes.
Where's Point Pleasant?
It's in West Virginia. It's sitting on the West Virginia-Ohio border, and there is a bridge that connects both states. There, Point Pleasant and Gallipolis. Any more questions?
I had the dog that ran off. Where exactly was he located in relation to Point Pleasant?
That is a good question. Probably somewhere like when you enter town, I would assume. I don't really know, to be honest.
Okay, I thought, like I said, the first one you said was Clendenin, which is a long way from Point Pleasant.
Yeah, well, Clendenin's about an hour from Point Pleasant, I think.
Yeah, it's up northern. It's north of Charleston. We used to live just south of there.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Any more questions?
Is there anything in the Mothman Road that has to do with lights and that I heard a short fiction story a while back about street lights going out in his presence, but it was fiction. It was a little short story. So I don't know if it has anything to do with it or not.
I've never heard street lights going off or anything. Now, when the bridge fell, there was the traffic light there at the bridge that was acting funny before it fell. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, Mom, go ahead.
No, you mentioned that the TNT site was used for dumping of waste and things of that nature, and you did mention that maybe he was a mutation. Has anything in your research suggested that maybe there was like a mass hallucination because maybe it had leached into the drinking water or anything like that?
I haven't really read anything like that. I'm sorry, did you have a question? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just thinking, I had thought I had seen something a while back where they had done something on the bridge, and I may be confused with something else, but I thought I'd seen something where actually there was one of the pieces, one of the joints, had actually, because it was so cold and because it was made of inferior material, that it actually had broken, and that's part of what toppled the silver bridge. I didn't know if you had seen anything about that or not.
Well, one theory my grandfather came up with is you have the big tubes there shooting out clouds and stuff, that maybe it landed on the bridge and it busted, and that's why it fell. I mean, if you don't believe in I'm not, for the record, I'm not saying you have to believe in Mothman. I'm just telling you what these people saw. If you want to believe, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. So, any more questions? No? Comments? Any comments? No comments?
Good.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for listening to me for this.
Thank you.
I don't know how long this was, but like I said, I'll be here till the event's over. If you go to the table there with all the wood magnets and stuff, that's my business, Wood in West Virginia. We are on Facebook and Instagram if you want to check us out. And we'll, like I said, we'll be here till the event ends. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Well, what'd y'all think? That is the presentation on the Mothman. Hope y'all enjoyed. This video was a long time coming, so I'm glad I was finally able to post it. But, yeah, this was fun. I will be back at WyvaCon this year, 2024, in Wytheville, Virginia, on October the 12th, so if you're in the Wytheville area, be sure to come check it out. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. If you did, please consider hitting the like button and subscribe for more. That is it for me. Hope y'all have a good day. Take care.